Welcome, every single one of you. I am Dr. Reddy, and I'm so glad you're here in the Beliefless Manifestation Micro Workshop. I'm just extremely grateful, and this micro workshop is not here to give you something that you don't already have. And so, before we go any further, by the way, I do have a surprise bonus for you at the very end. So, please make sure to the end, to stay till the end if you can. So this micro workshop is not about self-improvement, okay? It isn't about some constructing a newer, better identity. There's no version of you waiting somewhere in the future that finally gets it right. Because at the deepest level, right, there's no one broken here. And nothing that requires repair. And so in this workshop, we're not adding anything. We are noticing. And we are definitely not gathering another method or technique for you to perform perfectly. So I'm not here above you as some guru, right? Or some expert. I'm not here to hand you strategies or formulas or manifestation techniques to master. And there's no interest here in manufacturing a better you. My role is much simpler than that. I point you back to what has always been here present, right? So there's no life checklist to complete. Instead, we are pausing long enough to see what exists prior to the endless checklist, prior even to the one trying to complete it. And yeah, you know what? You're not going to be asked to repeat I am as though it was some incantation, right? What you'll begin to notice is that I am is the silence that has never left. The background, the foreground, and definitely the background present before every thought, every desire, every story. So rather than fixing your narrative, we turn towards the one who believes they are living inside the narrative, right? Instead of rewiring beliefs, right? You may start to see that awareness itself does not lean on belief to be what it is. So, and rather than organizing your life around healing as some permanent project, something softer becomes possible, right? The release of healing as an identity. And there's no pressure here to construct a new self. It's just an invitation to rest as what you never stop being. There's no rigid discipline here either for this recognition. And seeing clearly has a freedom built into it, right? And yeah, I'm not asking you to wait for your life to begin either, right? You're being shown what is already fully here. So we're not trying to perform here. It's just about noticing that your presence, noticing that you're this awareness. And definitely, this is not an instruction to do more, but an opening to see and remain with what is revealed here. And and by the way, I'm walking beside you in this noticing. I'm not some ahead of you, like looking at you like, oh, we're there. you know, we're going to look through this together, right? We are going to slow down together. We going to recognize who we truly are together. And I'm not offering I am as something to chant your way into transformation, right? I'm guiding you towards what is underneath all that waiting, the place where change happens without struggling. And so I'm not asking you to rewrite the story of your life. I'm inviting you to notice, is there a storyteller here? And watch how the story reshapes itself without force. And what we're doing here is recognizing what has always been true. And that recognition is the shift, right? And yes, you'll hear phrases like beliefless manifestation and the way of rest or guided pauses. And we'll, kind of unfold them slowly. But for now, just know that manifestation was never dependent on your effort. It was never secured by this belief. It was never like waiting for the character, this body-based identity to finally become worthy, right? Manifestation has always pointed you back home. And you're not searching for, you are home, right? And most people move through life identified as the character, the separate selves constructed from memory, conditioning, and story. And the body identity that constantly senses something needs adjusting can just get never, like, can never get enough, right? And if you listen closely, you'll hear its voice. It says something like, oh, I'll manifest once my belief is strong enough. I'll be chosen when I finally stabilize the right state. Oh, I'll succeed after I correct my thoughts. Or even saying something like, Anila, I'm not at your level yet, right? Yet the character never actually arrives at this imagined finish line, right? Because it was never a solid entity to begin with. What you are, which is awareness, you can call it source or I am, has never experienced lack, right? Nothing was missing. And when this is glimpsed, the way of rest stops feeling like a concept and begins to feel natural, like, almost obvious. So wholeness is not a destination that we're traveling to. It's your starting point. And from here, obviously, your desires are no longer fueled by the sense of urgency. They begin to unfold with far less friction, right? Without that chasing, that grasping. And I just want to quickly see the chat and see how you're doing. Are you with me on this so far? Um, okay, I see that you guys are excited. Yes. All right. So I invite you to try this question, right? Just notice for just a few moments, right? Invite you to just try a question I'm going to pose to you. Just relax. Like, don't try to force yourself to feel anything in particular. I want you to bring into your mind, like, something you've been searching for. Maybe it's financial ease. Maybe it's being spoiled in a relationship, or a deeper sense of peace. And just notice the movement of the thought, right? That says, oh, I need to have this, or I want this. And just for a moment, allow that thought to fade, or set that thought aside, or don't refer to that thought. If it were to fall quiet, or if it were to fall aside on the side, even briefly, what remains? Not emptiness, but just this sense of justice, right? And that can feel like home. And maybe even a stillness that did not need to be created or named. And this is nothing but awareness. Ryan, this is awareness, aware of itself, right? This is the shift, the movement from chasing life as the character into resting as what you already are. It didn't require some elaborate or exaggerated feeling when you notice this. Now, before we begin to explore like desires or states or manifestations, we need to clarify on like three things, which I think are important for you to know. What the separate self actually is, what I mean by a guided pause, and what um, direct experience points to, right? Because without this foundation, everything that follows can sound like another belief system or something, something brand new or foreign, just another set of tools. And it can feel like another attempt to self-repair, which is none of this is that, right? So what the separate self or the character is, right? Because let's start here, because without this clarity, the mind will quickly turn these teachings into something to practice or achieve. The separate self is simply the identity built around the body and its story. It's a collection of thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, right? The version of me that always feels that there's something to fix, to improve, and finally get it right. So, and seeing this clearly changes how everything else is heard as well. And what a guided pause is first, it's a term I coined, but it is not a technique. A guided pause is not some strategy. It is not meditation. It's not a tool for the character to use to get something. It is a direct pointer back to what was never left, what has never left, what is always here for you. And it is the moment, right? The chase kind of stops and this effort also softens. And then you rest in what is already here. For example, instead of saying, right, oh, repeat, I am chosen until you believe it, or just decide that you believe it, a guided pause simply invites you to notice, the thought I'm not chosen is appearing in awareness, right? When that thought passes, or if I don't refer to that thought, what remains in this very instant? That's the whole thing, right? So nothing new is being embodied, right? You're pausing long enough to see what is always present here. And next, direct experience is not some mental understanding. This is not about saying, I already know that. No. It is not a belief that you're adopting. It is not something that you're thinking about. It is the immediate recognition of what is here before thought names it, before thought explains it, before thought organizes it. Because right now, something is aware, right? Something is aware of hearing the sound of my voice. That is direct experience. And it's important to clarify here. Sensation itself is not direct experience. Sensation is interpreted through memory and the mind. And you know that it's a sensation through even like a thought that says, oh, this is a sensation. Direct experience is the knowing in which all sensation appears. Even if you set aside the word sensation, what is present now? That is direct experience. And I want to say it's kind of like, the time when you discovered Santa Claus wasn't real, especially if, I know, especially in the West, you know, parents tell their kids that there is Santa Claus. Once you saw through that, right? Maybe in the beginning you were also upset a little bit, but no one had to keep convincing you afterwards that Santa Claus was not real. Once the illusion was seen through, it was over. It was game over. And this is what happens when the separate self is recognized for what it is. This is not something to memorize, something you cannot unsee, something that you have to recollect from my videos or that other YouTuber which has like a gazillion followers. No, it's for you to see, and you cannot unsee it because it's based on your firsthand direct experience. Because you can see that your thoughts are coming and going, right? Beliefs are changing, and stories are rising and falling. And because this movement is seemingly happening, right? What comes and goes cannot be truth. It just cannot be the truth. So a thought is not the truth. So if you set aside thoughts, set aside beliefs, you set aside stories, you set aside sensations, direct experience is what remains. And that is the truth, meaning the awareness that does not arrive and does not leave. This nameless experience, whatever is here, where you cannot even qualify it with a label, that is the only truth for the 7 billion or 8 billion people on the planet. Right? And I do want to point out something regarding self-trust here, because I know you've been asking me about it. Self-trust here naturally follows direct experience. When something is seen directly, trust is no longer a decision, Trust is no longer something you have to believe in or cultivate, or something that you need to have this strong willpower or like build this belief around, right? Because think again of realizing that Santa Claus was not real. No one had to remind you afterwards. That, like, no doubt needed managing. You simply saw what was here, right? And direct experience works the same way. When you recognize awareness or I am as what you are, self-trust begins to emerge, because that is trust, right? You can only trust what remains at all times. And this is not the kind the character tries to manufacture, but it's a steady knowing that doesn't depend on belief, that you can always verify for yourself. Because what you see clearly no longer requires reassurance from any person, not a coach, not a YouTuber, not books, not a sage on the mountains. Okay. This is why direct experience is the only place real trust can grow from, because thoughts can argue, beliefs can change, emotions can move. But what is seen stays seen. And from that seeing, you stop outsourcing authority to methods, to signs, and constant proof for success stories, for bigger success stories, because you begin to trust life unfolding because you're no longer separate from it, right? Self-trust is what just remains when you finally trust, or when you finally see clearly, right? And the trust becomes a default setting. And what the separate self is, when we go to the next part, because this is also important, the ego or the separate self is not an enemy. Okay. It's not something you need to kill, eliminate, you know, kind of bastardize. It's simply the habit of identifying with thoughts, memories, emotions, and beliefs, and calling that collection me. And it sounds like this, right? Oh, I'm not enough. I'll be worthy when that relationship comes. When I have the money, then I can relax that one day I need to fix myself before I deserve a loving relationship. These are stories. And yeah, they appear and they can feel so damn convincing, but they are not you. So the separate self is nothing more than the reflex that says, this thought is who I am. And once this reflex is seen, right, the spaciousness opens. And yeah, let's even look at the voice of the separate self, right? The separate self is not always like loud and shouting, kind of subtle sometimes, and very convincing. It leans in and it says, "You're close. Just fix this one more thing, okay?" And that's where the list begins. Affirm harder. Oh, reprogram the subconscious mind. Please listen to more subliminals. Heal the inner child. Clear the shadow. Oh, change that story again and again. Rewrite the thoughts. Do the I am affirmations. Claim them. Claim them. Make sure you know I am perfect. I am absolutely amazing. Embody the new identity. Force yourself into the right state. Silence the emotions or affirm over them until they disappear. And when none of that delivers the relief it promised, the list simply grows. It says, well, now then just try human design. Try a different version of you. Try new affirmations. Just visualize differently. Or just decide. Just decide with greater certainty, like it's a fact. I mean, that list has no finish line. Because the separate self survives by convincing you there is always something left to repair. And there's no problem, there's no separate self, right? And yes, are all these techniques bullshit? No, they are helpful to a degree, right? They're a stepping stone, right? And beyond that, after that comes the experience of recognizing who you are. There comes a different exploration, which is what we're doing here. So why these techniques don't seem to work is, let's just see what is underneath the assumption of all of it, right? The assumption says, I am this body and I am this mind. I am this history. And once I fix it, I can manifest what I want. I can be the master perfect manifester. But the character was never the one creating anything, right? So it will always feel behind. It will always try to correct, right? And plays catch up. And the moment you take yourself to be the separate self, meaning this character, your action begins, or they begin from perceived lack. And lack cannot reveal wholeness, right? It can only chase it. So I invite you to actually try this guided pause question, right? Just for a moment, pause. And bring to your mind whatever one thing you've been doing to finally get there, right? Maybe affirming, maybe rewriting your story, maybe working hard to become something new. And now ask gently, right? Who is all of this effort, this doing, right? Who is all of this effort happening to or appearing to? Look directly in your firsthand experience. Can you actually find a solid self at the center of it? Don't believe me, look for it. No, you can't. Or can you notice that there are simply thoughts, images, sensations arising in awareness? And notice what happens to the weight of striving when it's seen that the effort was never owned by a separate you. Something loosens. And again, we're not trying to chase a particular feeling. It can also feel ordinary. That's cool too. So the separate self here has another strategy, okay? Its strategy is reinvention. Meaning you drop the identity of the unworthy one and quickly adopt the identity of the magnetic one. It's like a new mask replaces the old, right? But the structure underneath hasn't changed. Even the awaken me, the perfect manifester, are still costumes, are still part of the same performance. Just the ego box has shifted from one ego box to another ego box. It's still the same character. Clear seeing is stepping out of the costume closet entirely, meaning there's no new mask required because what you are was never a mask to begin with. All right. And once again, I invite you to pause and just notice, is there something you've been trying to become? Maybe it's the confident one, the healed one, the abundant one. And now, once again, see carefully, is that version solid? Is that a solid entity? Or is it just another image, another thought, another mask? And now notice what is aware of that image. What is aware of that image? Please don't try to name it. Just notice what is aware of that image. That is what we call sometimes awareness, I am, or consciousness. And you can see awareness doesn't need to believe in a mask. And awareness is what you are. And here's why, right, beliefless manifestation sort of ends this endless list. When you rest as I am, the endless self-improvement that list begins to fall away. There's nothing to repeat 1,000 times. There's no belief to chase down. There's no past that must be repaired, and no thoughts that require constant supervision, right? Awareness was never like damaged. It was never fractured. It was never waiting to be fixed. And from here, desires move differently, of course, right? Not because like every step was completed, but because the tension of trying to become whole is no longer running the show. And nothing is resisting your completeness because you're no longer pretending to be incomplete. And once again, just try this guided pause question. Pause again. And just play, you with your eyes open. And notice the thought, well, there's still one thing you need to kind of work on. You need to fix. And just gently ask, well, who is that thought referring to? Can you actually locate the one who needs repair? Or is this simply a familiar voice of the character? Just notice, can you actually locate the one who needs repairing? Just stay. Who is that thought referring to? Is there a solid entity? And notice what surfaces. What happens when this list is allowed to drop just for a few moments? It can feel like relief. It can feel a bit different. It can feel even ordinary. Take your time and just notice for a moment. Who is the thought referring to? Who is the thought talking to? Can you find the one hearing your thought? Or is it just nameless? So I want you to see and understand the separate self stays alive by keeping you occupied. It hands you assignments without end. Affirm more, heal more, embody more, perform better. Yet it was never a requirement, because the separate self itself was never solid. The character was never solid. And when this is seen clearly, something else replaces the striving. The list dissolves. What remains is rest. From here, actions become simple. Desires unfold with less friction. Manifestation of what you want feels more like breathing because you are never the one carrying the list. So yeah, the separate self, meaning the character is a story. It's not what you are. A guided pause returns you to what was always here. And direct experience is the knowing, it's not belief, not thought, not memory. And from here, we can go on to the next. And yeah, I know it's important to discuss this next one, which is, the trap of embodying. And you've heard this before, where you've heard things like embody the state, act as if, step into the version of you who already has it. And on the surface, it sounds empowering, but there's a lot of effort underneath it when you listen closely. Embodying can often suggest that, oh, I'm not there yet. I need to act my way into it. So energy gets spent holding a posture, maintaining an identity, staying in a particular state. And it can feel stressful, even strained. Embodying can sometimes assume that you are separate from what you seek. It creates a gap, right? And once that gap seems to exist, the character begins its chase. And even if it seems to work for a little while, notice what happens next. Like the high fades, the state slips, and another pressure appears. Like, oh, I have to keep this, or I'll lose it, right? And that's not freedom. And there is another way. It's the way of rest. And you'll feel the shift when we move into rest, right? When we're resting as awareness, rest does not mean withdrawing from life. It doesn't mean that your desires like vanish. It means you stop pretending that awareness is something you need to step into, because you're not approaching awareness, right? You don't embody I am. You're resting as I am. And I am is not some costume or identity or a state to stabilize. Like it's the bare reality that has never gone anywhere. That's why there's no becoming here. There's no holding on to, just noticing what already is, right? And there are pitfalls of trying to embody the I am, right? One of the easiest traps in this path is attempting to embodying I am itself, right? And it can appear in the context of, oh, you repeat I am as if it creates and carries some magical power, right? You evaluate your day and you're thinking, did I embody it well today? How well did I embody it? 80%, 20%? You construct a new identity, which is the awakened one, the flawless, perfect master manifester. But this is still a character, only better dressed. Right? I am is not a role. It is not something you perform convincingly enough to keep. I am is what remains when every performance ends. You don't embody it. You rest as is, because you cannot become what you already are. You cannot become more of that. And even now, just notice, right? Let's just say you have this, you say I am, and you recognize I am for a moment. Notice how quickly the mind wants to complete the sentence. Like, I am wealthy. I'm here. I'm going to the zoo after watching this workshop. I'm going to eat lunch after seeing this video. I am magnetic. Oh, I am so healthy. This time, just pause before the description, before the story forms. So what is here just now without the label? Just I am. There's no gap here. There's no effort here. It's not something you become. It's just what you've always been. And this is precisely why discipline isn't required here either. It's not needed. Discipline belongs to the character's logic that says, if I stay consistent enough, I will finally arrive. But what you are is not a destination. Okay. You don't reach awareness or I am through practice. You don't become I am over time. You cannot become it because you already are it, right? You notice it because it was already here before any practice began, right? So yeah, and discipline can help you learn a new language if you want, master an instrument, um, build a certain skill, but it cannot deliver you what you already are. Awareness is not something you maintain, it simply is, right? And so when you live from embodying, there is constant self-monitoring. Especially when you're seeing embodying as something that you need to practice. And that often looks like, am I doing this right? Where is the proof? Did I fall out of the state? Right? There's so much effort in all of it. From resting as awareness, something simpler happens, decisions seem to move without fear. Desires unfold without a lot of backlash. There's nothing to measure yourself against. Look at relationships, for instance. Instead of performing the version of you who is chosen and watching your phone for confirmation for a text, you rest as awareness. And you realize, wait a second, love is not being negotiated here, right? Whether you now want to text your partner or your friend or you don't text, now this response comes from ease, from I am, rather than doubt. Same with money. There's no forcing yourself into abundance while refreshing your banked app, right? You're resting as awareness, as I am, and financial choices become clearer, even steadier. There's no panic going on here. There's no spiraling. And even with your body, right? Now the care no longer comes from criticism or controlling the way you look. It just arises naturally. Like you'll be drawn to do whatever you need to do. Resting as I am often makes manifestation feel ordinary because nothing is missing at home, right? And let's even look at why belief, right, seems so central. It's one of the most repeated ideas in manifestation, right? And you've heard it a ton of times, which says something like, you must believe, or you just have to believe that it's already yours. And if belief doesn't come easily, the instruction usually follows, oh, just affirm more, rewire your brain, visualize more, do more I am affirmations, embody it harder until belief finally settles in. But belief is inherently unstable. It rises, it falls, it changes, it strengthens, it weakens. And when manifestation is tied to belief, your sense of security rises and falls with it. Right? You may recognize the cycle, right? The rush when belief feels strong, followed by the doubt when doubt returns. Notice how you doubt yourself then. That drop you sense when doubt returns. And living on that emotional swing is just exhausting, right? Because belief belongs to the character, the one convinced that it must get everything right. Listen to that voice. It says, I need stronger beliefs. I need to eliminate doubt. If I don't believe enough, nothing will happen. And yet the character was never the one creating life. Awareness was revealing it to you. Because the sun comes up, whether you believe it will or not. Your heart beats without rehearsal. Life continues its moment without waiting for your conviction. So why assume manifestation alone demands effort and persuasion when it comes to what you want? And even now, notice the thought, well, of course I need beliefs for this to work. Now allow the thought to pass without following it. What remains? Just this isness, just awareness present. Life is unfolding, belief or no belief. And this is beliefless manifestation. Beliefless manifestation is not about, it's not, about suppressing doubts, nor is it pretending disbelief never appears. It's the clear recognition that manifestation was never powered by belief to begin with. Desires unfold because, well, life is already unfolding, not because you successfully convinced yourself. And this is the way of rest. There's no belief to stabilize, there's no inner argument to win. And watch what happens when belief becomes the focus. First, it turns into a daily evaluation. You wake up wondering, did I believe enough today? And if the answer does not feel certain, the spiral begins. Belief generates resistance. The harder you try to believe, the more you also can reinforce the feeling that belief is missing. And it ties everything to effort, right? Peace gets postponed until the day of it finally arriving. But there is nowhere to arrive. You're already here. So everyday life, right, from here, it's seen differently in relationships. Instead of, repeating they love me throughout the day, you rest. And from that rest, yes, you're texting, you're speaking, you're drinking a cup of coffee, expressing love, whatever arises. It feels natural rather than like some strategy, right? So belief is part of the character's strategy, and resting as awareness belongs to reality. And manifestation has never depended on belief. It unfolds as you recognize yourself as source and allows this life to just move from there. And the path feels loose, carefree for a reason, because you're no longer chasing belief, because you're resting as what you already are. And old patterns, yeah, let's talk about them, right? Old patterns rarely disappear all at once, right? Sometimes they can return, often disguised as, oh, you doing the work, right? But beneath the surface, It is simply the character trying to stay in control. And it can look like checking, right? Looking outward for confirmation that is happening. Oh, did they text back? I rested in I am. Where's my text? Is the bank balance rising? Am I in the right state while I rested in I am? Is this correct? Every check carries the same message, which says, it isn't here yet. I need proof. And what have you been checking lately? Can you actually find the one who needs reassurance, or is there only a thought appearing in awareness? Don't try to answer it intellectually, just notice. And let the thought pass. Notice how trust does not ask for evidence. A pattern can also look like comparing, glancing sideways at someone else's timeline. Oh, they received it faster. Oh, those people under that YouTuber's comments, oh my God, they tried all of this and have all these amazing stories. Well, why not me? I'm so behind. I know that I'm not doing this right. They better fix it for me. This is all bogus. But awareness is not moving along a track. There is no ahead, there's no behind, right? Only what is here. If you didn't know the concept of better or worse, if you pause in this moment, pause again and notice. If you have no idea about the concept of better or worse, without that story, what remains in this very instant is just completeness, just here, just this. And yes, a pattern can also look like force, trying to lock yourself into the correct state, holding positivity tightly, holding I am tightly, wondering how to bottle this up, pushing down away, being afraid of the character's story, old story. Like, I don't want to say my story, but I don't want to say my story. Like, there's like, this is you here, and then they'll try to push away the story. Working hard to stay aligned. Yet awareness has never needed management, you know. Yes, states shift. You remain. You remain. Now, which brings me to this, which is letting go. Letting go was never required because fulfillment is what you are. And this idea of letting go creates unnecessary effort. You know, it's often kind of described as releasing fear or dropping attachment or surrendering the desire. But notice the assumption inside that instruction. It says, it suggests that you were the one holding everything together. Awareness has never held on to anything. It's never gripped here. It's never stored lack. It never tightened around relationships or outcomes. It never put you on a leash. It never put your partner on a leash that, oh my God, he has to be like this. You better be. The experiences arise, they stay briefly, they pass. Awareness remains untouched. So when you hear let go, please remember there's nothing you need to let go of. Letting go is who you are. It's a consequence of recognizing that you are awareness, because awareness was never holding on. And let's try this guided pause question here again. right? Just pause here and bring to mind something you believe you're holding. The fear of rejection, the worry about money, uncertainty about the future. And as you're looking at it, just look carefully. Is awareness gripping it? And to answer that, just notice, are you aware of this, whatever this thing that you're holding on to? Are you aware of that? Yes. Are you aware that you're aware of noticing this? Yes. What are the qualities of this awareness? Is this awareness holding on to anything here? Is it holding on to the words I'm speaking? The thoughts that you're having? Or is it simply open? Any thought about holding on to was simply a thought. It's a sensation. It's a passing story. Notice how awareness has never grasped it in the first place. What you are has never grasped it. So what is there to let go of, right? That's why letting go is who you already are. And let's see another common misunderstanding, right? Because people think, well, you're being asked to abandon your desire, let go of your desire. No, you are resting in the fulfillment of what you are. And from fullness, the sense of hunger naturally fades because fullness and hunger cannot occupy the same space. You cannot be full and hungry for something at the same time. You can either be hungry for it and it's satiated by being full, right? So nothing is being pushed away here. The tension around the desire simply falls when you rest as fullness and the urgency around love softens, then connection moves without chasing, right? When you rest as I am, which is another word for abundance, then the panic around money loosens, right? And opportunities feel easier to meet. When you rest as I am, you recognize that you're whole. And then you see that the body is no longer approached through criticism, right? And that's when your body starts changing. What disappears is the resistance around the desire. And without that resistance, the fulfillment of it in the physical world becomes natural, like life moves to support that. If you look at fear, you don't release fear. Fear releases itself because awareness was never carrying it. And miscommunication, right? Think of like a misunderstanding um, with your partner or your family or your friend. You don't have to wrestle drama to the ground when you're resting as awareness. When you rest as I am, the charge softens. And you realize, wait a second, there is never a problem here. And the words do, if you want to respond to a certain text or a person, they naturally appear. If you don't, that too happens. And I'm sure you've seen often when people are like, wait, what were we even fighting about? I don't even remember. Or they might even say something like, especially someone who's extremely triggered, and let's say they've never felt like someone who can calm down easily, you'll notice that they've changed. You notice that, wait a second, this person would have been mad at me for a few days. Now it's barely a blip, right? And from here, we're not even abandoning the specific person or the dream role, dream career. When you rest in I am, you notice this sense of fullness, and the sense of lack loosens. And then the desire is free to come about in your world without resistance. Right? So letting go is not about abandoning desire. You're not suppressing fear. You're not pretending that you don't care. It's not about spiritually bypassing anything. Letting go is seen as unnecessary because what you are has never held on. Right? And so letting go is simply seen as a consequence to recognizing what you already are. When you rest in I am, fulfillment or fullness becomes obvious. From fullness, lack drops away without force. Right? You're not starving your desire. You're meeting it with truth, and truth is fulfillment. Another word for truth and fulfillment is I am. And from here, yes, even very specific desires move freely to come about in your world. Now, most people hear the word desire and immediately often treat it as something that they're lacking, something that they're working towards. They're like, oh, I want this because I don't have it. But what if that reading is kind of reversed, right? What if desire is not evidence of emptiness? What if it is movement, outpouring from fullness, right? You don't laugh because something is missing. Laughter just spills out. Music doesn't appear because silence lacks anything. It emerges because silence is alive. And your specific desires are no different, right? They're not lack. They are life expressing itself, right? And think of an artist. I like this analogy a lot. I know you do too. Think of an artist watching the sunrise. The artist does not paint to fill the void. The artist paints because the moment is so full that they cannot hold back. They have to paint. There's this urge to take the paintbrush, canvas, and paint the sunset or sunrise. Color moves on to the canvas almost by itself. It's not for show, it's not for someone else, it's just desire expressing itself. It's not from hunger, it's not seen as some absence, it is an expression. Think of Rumi writing poems. He wasn't thinking, oh my God, I'm going to do this to become famous. He just did it because that's what felt alive in the moment. And yes, that was his desire. And because it was coming from that true place of presence, of this awareness, of recognizing this moment right here, it touched so many lives. It was not a performance piece. And which brings me to this, right? Recognizing the character's trap. When identity tightens around the separate self, desire gets filtered through lack. And manifestation turns into some repair project. And that project says, well, I will do I am affirmations, or I will believe myself until this gap closes. I'll visualize until the distance disappears. I'll heal until I deserve it. But the one trying to repair is the character, and the character is structured to keep seeking. And so the cycle repeats, right? It's like a desire chasing. There's some brief high and then the wanting again. And what if the high fades because the me trying to secure it was never solid, right? So eventually something becomes a bit more clear. You don't just actually want more, you want home. And when you rest as I am, any of your desires stop dangling in front of you like a reward. And they begin to feel like movement already alive within you, that you get to experience in your world, in the so-called physical, right? And even think of a garden in the spring, right? Flowers don't bloom from starvation, right? They bloom because life is overflowing. Your desires move the same way. You want a better relationship or a different relationship. You want to experience that. It's intimacy flowering from fullness. If you take wealth, it's generosity taking form. If you see creativity, expression rising naturally. It's not some form of compensation or reward. It is pure expression, life expressing itself. And you are that life. And yet, sometimes the character insists, when I get what I want, then I'll finally be enough. But look carefully, like, has chasing ever delivered enoughness? Or has it only kept the momentum going? Your desires do not exist to prove your worth. It reveals the fullness that you already are. And if you look at like examples, like, a real life example, like think of a specific person, right? When pursuit comes from lack, the dynamic feels tight. It's full of checking, it's waiting, it's like meaning making. Why didn't they put a smiley? Why did they just say this? Or they never make time for me. But when you rest as I am, connection feels natural. Because intimacy is no longer treated as something outside of you. Now you recognize that you're not manufacturing love. You recognize that you're never separate from it. And life reflects that. And now just notice, right? There is one more guided pause, right? Just pause. Just notice a simple desire, or what your mind might even call a small desire, whether it's fetching a cup of coffee, whether it's to dress nicely, whether it's to listen to music, taking a walk in the park, some fresh air. See how it moves without strain. See how there's no fixing required there. It's just life expressing itself. And now allow the possibility that your so-called big desires move the same way. These desires are not pressures, it's a dance of life itself. And now I want to get into something that I know you've been asking me about regarding, states. And before that, I'm just going to pop into the chat and see how you're doing. So are you guys still here with me? Right. Yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Um, okay. I'm so glad you're enjoying this. Someone's, obviously. Okay. So I'm very grateful. So let's look at states and characters, right? Think of states and characters as different languages pointing to the same movement. A state is an entire world of meaning, right? How you experience yourself, how you experience others, how you experience life. And a character is how that state expresses itself in story, right? So when the state is not enough, right, or disempowered, the character appears as the struggler, the rejected one, the one who must prove. Now, when the state is coming from wholeness, the character shows up as, oh, the chosen one, the supported one, the loved one, right? the same mechanism, just different origins. Now, there are two sources of every state, meaning there are only two groups of states, okay? All states arise from one of two places: states of wholeness or states of separation or lack. States of wholeness, these emerge from I am, awareness, your true nature. And they tend to feel spacious, they tend to feel steady, they tend to feel unforced. And they look like, oh, it'd be the fulfilled partner, the effortless creator, the um, the amazing, I don't know, the successful businessman or woman. And states of separation, these grow from identification with the separate self, which is the character. They often feel urgent, heavy, tight. And they look like, oh, the abandoned one, the hustler, the one waiting for proof, the disempowered one. Every character you have ever played traces back to one of these states, right? And which brings us to noticing what self-concept is, right? Self-concept is simply the state you revisit, right? Self-concept is not fixed. It's not something you install once and then you protect forever. It is the state you return to most often. If you return again and again to separation and the familiar characters appear, right? The struggler, the overlooked one, the one who must earn their place, naturally that begins to feel like me, right? That feels like you, and that is the self-concept in those moments. Let's say you recognize who you are, return to wholeness, to I am, and states of wholeness begin to surface on their own. From there, the self-concept reflects ease, the chosen one, the supported one, the loved one. So self-concept is never a construction project. It reflects where you are resting. Is it in lack or in wholeness? It's almost like sunrise dissolving shadows without effort, right? The self-concept adjusts because it was always mirroring the state beneath it. So there's nothing to repair in the character. There's nothing to obsess over that, right? When we see through the character, the states shift naturally. Now, there's one source, meaning one I am. There's infinite characters. We move through countless characters, guys. It's not like one character. We move through countless characters. One day, the confident speaker. Another day, a successful businesswoman. Another day, it can also be the disempowered woe is me one. Or maybe in 30 minutes later, it's the empowered person. So nothing has gone wrong. This is just life expressing itself. What matters is not which character appears, but where it arises from. Is it lack or wholeness? So most people hear state and they think it refers to a mood or an emotion, like happy, sad, calm. But no, a state is far more encompassing. It is a lens that shapes perception, meaning, decision, actions, your entire sense of reality. So what a state holds, it's a world, right? Each states have different meanings, interactions, perceptions, decision-making, inspired action, beliefs, assumptions, your own behavior, other people's behaviors, sensations, thoughts, emotions. From lack, states of lack arise. The world looks like it's very unforgiving. You have meanings that support it, thoughts that support the same lack, emotions that support the same lack, decisions that support the same lack. From fullness, from wholeness, from I am, the world feels intimate. You don't feel like there's another, you'll still have thoughts, you'll still have feelings, You'll still do actions. You'll still have notice meanings, but they support wholeness. It's not always butterflies and rainbows, but it can be something like, oh yeah, it's a great day today, you know? So think of an analogy like this, right? Like imagine placing a VR headset over your eyes, and the moment it powers on, you're inside a world. It's not just a feeling. It feels like a reality, right? In one simulation, you stand in a desert. Everything appears dry, distant, again, like unforgiving. In another, you walk through a meadow. It's just green, it's alive, it's abundant. And states function the same way. They don't just adjust the mood, right? They color the world you believe that you're living in. Now, the separate self tends to cycle through familiar positions, familiar states that, okay, I'm not enough, or I am behind. I need to fix myself. I must heal before anything changes. And each state generates its own environment, right? From I am not enough, rejection seems everywhere. From I must fix this, life looks like endless labor, right? And from I must heal, like wounds appear in every direction. So it's not that the world is working against you, it's that it's the headset through which the world is being viewed, right? And I want you to ask yourself from time to time, like, what headset am I wearing? What kind of world is this state revealing to me? Notice how differently the same life can appear depending on the lens. And when you rest as awareness, as I am, another state world, the state of abundance, naturally opens. It's not a mood you manufacture, not an identity you hold together, simply the atmosphere of wholeness. And here, love feels less like pursuit, and more like something that you're just simply enjoying. Abundance feels less conditional. If you look at a relationship, right, from the state of I am incomplete or I am not enough, or I need this person, conversations can feel like evaluations, right? Subtle test of whether you are accepted, whether they're doing enough, whether you are enough. From I am, like connection feels less negotiated. Intimacy is already in motion. With money, yeah, from scarcity, every expense carries weight, right? Another signal to tighten. From abundance, yeah, bills are simply part of the rhythm. More opportunities show up. They get taken care of. More abundance shows up. Decisions feel steadier. Generosity and opportunities feel more natural. So instead of asking, well, how do I get this? Notice, well, what state am I in anyway, right now? Am I identified as a separate self or awareness? Because the separate self, meaning the character, assumes, well, if I repair enough of myself, I'll finally reach the state I want. But the shift happens much sooner, the moment it is seen that you are not the character at all, right? So states don't change because the character perfected itself. They shift when identification loosens, right? And think of it like being absorbed in a movie theater, in watching a movie, in watching a film. For a while, the story feels completely real, right? You laugh, you tense up, maybe even tear up. Then suddenly you realize, wait a second, I'm the one watching. Maybe even someone taps you on the shoulder and they say, hey, can you see the screen? Can you see the screen it's playing on? And you immediately soften. Because nothing about the movie has changed just then, just in that second. But now the theater has opened. You are no longer confined to the storyline. This is the movement from state as character to awareness within which every fulfilled state appears. And now I want to take you through another guided pause question. Notice a self concept or just a general view of yourself that's been active today or maybe this week. Perhaps it's I'm not enough. Perhaps it's, oh, I've got this. Perhaps life is great. And now ask yourself, does this character exist without you referring to thought? If you don't refer to memory, does this character exist? And notice, does this character have a sense of continuation without you referring to memory? Or is each moment, even this moment, right, this very second, is seen fresh? When the story widens or is set aside, what remains? Just this. Doesn't matter if you don't come up with a name, that's just awareness. It's not the role, it's the space in which the role briefly forms. This is the ground where every fulfilling state arises from. So, yeah, a state is not a mood, it's a world. And a world that feels like it's loving, kind, abundant towards you does not come from repairing the character. It reveals itself as you rest in what you already are. Which brings us to noticing that all action is inspired, and where you move from matters. Now, people often think, like we've been talking about, if there's nobody doing the action, then who is acting? Who is deciding? Just look closely, like action is always unfolding. What changes is the felt sense of that action, and that comes entirely from where identification rests. When you take yourself to be the character, the one lacking that separate self, because you're giving rise to states of separation, states of like not enoughness, action will always be inspired from those states. Action feels like you clinging on to a person, over texting. I used to be there, over texting, demanding proof, calling multiple times, not waiting for a person, feeling restless, checking. It feels pressured, it feels urgent, it feels charged. And it can feel like indecision, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And when you rest as I am, well, action moves differently. It's just lighter, it's cleaner. If you feel like texting your friend, you do. Now you're not texting 10,000 times. It's almost, self-arising. And sometimes the action can look the same, right? Let's say you're feeling, and what I mean by that is, let's just say you're not feeling good enough. You feel insecure about your relationship, whether it's with your friend, your lover, your, uh, colleague, whoever. Let's say you're not feeling secure about that relationship. Now you want to text this person. No, I'm fine. I'm just going to ask them, how are they doing? Like, how are you? Right? On the surface, it looks very simple action. How are you? But it's coming from a state of lack, right? That state of lack is what keeps those unwanted things going. Because once you send that text, initially it might not look like, oh, something is bad is happening. But often you can see somehow the conversation has shifted its tone. Somehow something has come up with this person that doesn't seem fulfilling enough for you, doesn't feel like they're catering to you, it doesn't feel like you're prioritizing you, even though you've just said that simple sentence, oh, how are you? You convince yourself that, no, I'm just going to text this, how are you? It's so harmless. But it's coming from the state of lack. The same text, you can feel drawn to send the same text from a place of feeling, knowing who you are, which is abundant. Like, how are you? Very clean. The state supports that. Conversations evolve. 3 days, 3 months down the line, an exchange happens that keeps, your desire from like just showing up all the time. It rearranges itself. Actions, opportunities, people's behaviors seem to rearrange themselves when you're in those states of wholeness and abundance. So from I am, states of fulfilling relationships or loving relationships, abundance, confidence doesn't need to be manufactured. They appear naturally because you are never separate from them and they were never separate from what you are. Right. So I want you to see this very clearly. All action is inspired, all of it. When identification sits in the character, meaning the separate self, action is inspired by fear, urgency, the need to secure something. When you rest as I am, action is inspired by clarity, steadiness, right? Life moves either way. The difference is chasing from hunger, or are you moving or coming from your home, which is I am, right? Because in a relationship as a separate self, a text might come from worry, like, oh, what if they forget me? Let me just quickly text them. From resting as I am, you reach out and remain chill without the heaviness. For money, from separation, action becomes hustle. Like, I have to move fast or I'll miss out. From rest, you may say yes or no without panic. And interestingly enough, money comes into your world reflecting that steadiness, right? Even identified as the character, a simple work email carries weight. Like, okay, how will this be received? What are they going to say? Or like, I hope they like it. Resting as I am, well, the same email can go with just clarity. You're not thinking about the action, it's just happening. So that's why manifestation feels more fluid from resting as I am, because from lack, action pushes against resistance. From fullness, action expresses the recognition of who you are. So it is not about waiting for a dramatic surge of motivation, right? It is about seeing that action is always being energized by whatever you are resting as. That's how we've operated always. Right? When you're resting as I am, even you're not even going to label them as small steps. It can sometimes even feel insignificant, whatever you're doing. But they tend to lead you to your desired life. And often you can only reflect on your actions. Once the desire comes, you realize, oh yeah, I didn't even know that this led me to this person, and this person gave a call to that person, and this happened. I didn't even know this chain of events. And the chain of events is not some elaborate events always happening over a stretch of time. It can happen whether in a seeming instant or however it plays out, but you're not searching for it. And yes, sometimes things can seem to intensify before they clear out, right? Let's say you've been resting and recognizing that you are I am more, right? And then suddenly, like, maybe a part of your mind gets louder, the body tightens, like you feel like you're adding too much meaning to things. And the character quickly concludes, like, oh, am I being tested? I'm back to square one now. Well, why does it feel harder now when I know about all of this stuff? First, there's no tests here. What you're noticing is simply old patterns loosening up, right? It's kind of like an echo in a cave. If you call out into a cave, even after your voice stops, the echo lingers for a little bit. But the cave is not challenging you, it is just sound fading, right? State behave the same way as identification shifts out of lack. Remnants may still appear, but so what, right? They're just dissolving. Or, oh, yeah, like taken another analogy that comes to mind is imagine turning on the light in a dark basement and finally seeing mold along the wall, right? The light didn't create it. It revealed what was there, how long it's been suppressed or ignored. And clarity does the same. It exposes old stories, triggers, reflexes. And it's nothing to trouble you, but because they're no longer needed, they're being exposed to dissolve. The dissolution happens by itself as you're resting in I am. And what rises is often what is leaving. So if the mind's saying, well, you're being tested, if you rest as I am, you can see, well, that's an old echo fading. If the mind is saying, oh, you're going backwards, in truth, when you see this and see yourself clearly, you're like, no, my seeing is becoming clear. So nothing requires fixing here, just noticing. Now, for this next part, right, I just want to offer you a simple map, right? That's called pause, rest, experience. Because I know some of you prefer experience over manifest. Pause, rest, experience, or manifest. It might sound like 3 steps, but this is not a rigid process. Often these steps, these movements happen together, right? And sometimes you won't even need the map at all, right? Because you've been doing this knowingly or unknowingly at some point or the other. Think of this map as a gentle pointer, something available when the mind feels loud, right? So it's pause, rest, and experience. The first one, pause, right? The moment the story, I'm not enough, whatever the story is, begins to spin, just pause. Just notice the story. We're not trying to fix, argue, push it away, or be like, no, I am. No. Just notice it. And ask yourself, am I aware of this thought? This is the guided pause question. Ask yourself, am I aware of this thought? Then ask, am I aware that I'm aware of this thought? And you'll say yes both times, right? Or you can ask, am I the thought or the one noticing it? Am I the thought or am I the one it is appearing to? Or to whom it's appearing? This pause returns you to what you actually are, which is awareness, which is this undisturbed, unmoved, already whole. Then comes the next phase. It's not really a phase, but stick with me. Rest, right? After the pause, there's nothing you need to effort your way out of. Simply rest as the awareness that is already here. After you ask those guided pause questions, those 1 or 2 questions, just notice the qualities of the awareness itself. Notice, is this awareness open? It's open. Notice its spaciousness. Notice how it's letting thoughts, emotions rise and fall. You are not inside them, they're appearing within you, right? There's nothing to repair or manage it. You're just being. This is the rest phase. And then the next phase, experience, where desire reveals itself, or you can call it the manifest phase. Now, notice if a desire is present, whatever it is, small or big, however your mind quantifies it. It might be something significant or something very ordinary. If it feels natural, allow a simple recognition of it to surface in your mind, perhaps as a statement or a brief image implying it's already here. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do this step, but it's just there. We're not trying to repeat it. There's no robotic affirming going on. And if you remember, an affirmation, how I share in the truest sense, is simply the acknowledgement of what is already true. It's not something you are rehearsing to make it real at all. And even this is optional, right? So we're not rehearsing anything. Because look closely, you are already deciding all day long. You're deciding on your desires all day long. You decided on your desire to have coffee, decided on your desire to text a friend, decided on your desire to step outside. Desire is constantly moving through you without effort and expressing itself in the physical world. So this is not an extra step. It only appears that way as an extra step when the character feels entangled in struggle. So please notice how naturally this has always been happening. You may call it a small experience, small manifestation. There's no real difference. Think of a moment when the thought arose, which said, oh, I should reach out to Ruby. And then later, perhaps minutes, perhaps days later, Ruby calls or messages. And maybe Ruby called you after many years or many months or many days. Whatever the case is, what happened there? You were not forcing anything. You didn't do a 3-step process or a 10-step process. You're not affirming. You are resting as what you are, as I am. And from there, a state of connection arose, was already present. From that state of connection came the thought, I should reach out to Ruby, or I want to talk to Ruby. And then the thought, right? So the thought, the desire, the fulfillment, all arising within the same field, the same state. The thought did not give rise to the desire. The thought and the desired outcome were coming from the same state of connection. So nothing was pulled towards you. Nothing was being chased. It unfolded, meaning revealed itself within the wholeness, what you already are, right? So yeah, allow the desire to arise without decorating it. There's no embellishment there. And just notice in this experience phase, is there any resistance here? Does this already feel like it's alive within me, or is there some pushback? When you're resting as I am, your desired experience will not feel like a gap. It feels more like a movement emerging from fullness, like a wave, not a void. So you're not magnetizing it or you're not manufacturing it. You're experiencing its reality now, because you notice in I am, there's nothing missing, right? And so even if you feel any kind of resistance, try out again the pause, rest, experience. Remember, these are not 3 steps you will be doing each time like some elaborate method. It is not that. It is simply a map, right? And yeah, sometimes after resting as I am, old material can surface. It's not a sign that you're regressing or something is wrong. It just means like old stories are loosening, and let them through. And you're letting them pass as I am, because awareness, or I am, has never been clinging on to them, right? So pause, rest, and experience. And please, let's not do this robotically or mechanically. This is not a process. It's what I share always. Explore who you are only when there's a natural willingness to look out of curiosity. This is not a process to perfect, because if you do this as something to perfect, you're going to ask the question, I rested as I am, where is it? But if you're asking that question, that means we've not truly rested as I am. You have to be curious and open to this. And yes, you have that courage. You have that ability to recognize this, because who you are is always here, reeling you back in. It is your natural rhythm, returning again and again to what has always been true. So yeah. Now, before we dive into questions, I have a surprise bonus offer for you. And that is, if you've been feeling caught up in your past, or rehashing uncomfortable memories, feeling like you're behind or you missed out, remembering unpleasant circumstances and fearing if they will repeat, or if you simply just want to explore for the kick of it, and you still want to see that there's no gap between you and your desired reality, or how it is available to you right this instant, not in theory, but very, very experientially, and dissolving doubts from multiple angles, then you can purchase my new timeless course today. And for the next 24 hours, whoever buys today and to the next 24 hours until Monday, February 9th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will get 2 audio coaching notes free. And those 2 audio coaching exchanges are usually the same price as the timeless course. So you're getting them free for the next, until February 9th, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you purchase timeless course today. And I'm going to put the link in the comment, in the chat here, and you can check it out. And yeah, so yeah, there it is. I put the link of Timeless in the comments. You can purchase it whenever you're ready. And yes, if you are in India and you want to purchase it, you can just email me and I will give you a Google Pay or GPay option. And yeah, and so the offer is just, if you buy Timeless, you will get the 2 audio coachings free. And I'm so glad Vanessa said Timeless is worth every penny, although I have not completely finished it yet. Thank you so much. And now, yes, I will take some questions. I know Latasha said, thank you, Anila. Amazing workshop. I feel lighter. What are the audio recordings? Is it just the audio version of the Timeless course? No, audio coaching notes is where you can ask me. The part of the Timeless course is, if you buy the Timeless course now, you get 2 audio coaching exchanges free, where you can send me an email with a question for your whatever question you have, and I will respond with a voice note. It's usually like 5 to 10 minute long voice note. And so, yes. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad. A lot of people loved it. Now for some question, guys. Where are the questions? Yeah, when something hasn't manifested for years and I am manifest automatically as an expression of fullness, I wonder why it hasn't shown up over time. Then it would appear as if something else plays into then it would appear as if something else plays into what shows up. What do you mean by it appears into something else plays into what shows up? Could you elaborate on this a bit? So yes, if something hasn't shown up, I always say, like, if you're asking like, well, why isn't it here yet? That itself means that we're not resting in fullness, in I amness in that very moment. Because if I am, how is it possible for me to be hungry and full at the same time? If I'm hungry for cake, I can't be full of that cake. If I am full and I know that I've eaten, I'm not going to ask, well, where is the cake? You see? So if we're asking the question, where is it? Why isn't it here yet? I've been doing this for years or decades or hours. That means one of two things. Either we've been resting in I amness with an agenda, or in that moment, as you're asking that question, you are not resting in I am. You know, what do you mean by resistance in the steps? Resistance is anything, yeah, sorry, what do you mean by resistance in the steps? Resistance is anything that you are pushing against, by your thoughts, mostly mentally, when you're feeling like resistance shows up, or like, let's just say you are thinking of your desire in that experience phase, and it still feels like, oh, I don't know, I don't feel like it's going to come, or I feel like it's still not here yet, or I don't know, man, I just don't think I'm worthy of it. All of that is resistance, right? Um, and yeah, so someone said, experiences of one manifested awareness um, may not necessarily be the same as other manifested form awareness. Uh, will will experience whatever it wants to experience. The character, if not dissolved, will continue to interpret as per its conditioning until dissolved. And happiness and sadness becomes experiences, not highs and lows. Um, I heard from one of your videos that thoughts arise when I am resting as I am in order to be dissolved, as they have no place left in me to be here anymore. So, what is the purpose of thoughts? Why they come up? Good question, right? So, the purpose of thoughts is, um, so we're built in this, seemingly built in this life expression. We communicate with people. We seem to see time. We seem to perceive distance. We have this seeming grain going on here. And so we are functioning according to what this dream has been designed with, like if you are inside a VR headset, right, you will be working with what is available to you there, like the mechanics of there, like whatever is going on there, whatever lens is there. And one of the lens through which we communicate with each other and the world is through thought. You don't have to use thought, but that is just, the way this setup is designed. If you were in some other, I don't know, 5D, right? I don't know. I guess it exists. 5D or 7D, maybe you don't even have a head. You don't even have a head. You don't have a thought. They don't talk using words. It's just sort of understood, right? And I believe, not that I've seen a lot of this, but many years ago, I watched this Gaia channel, right? Gaia, Netflix for spirituality, where people talk about these like different kind of beings. But what I'm saying is it's just designed this way, this particular dream. So it is not good or bad. It's just helpful if you want to have a conversation like I'm having with you, right? Yes, to clarify, does it still mean that your desire can manifest if it hasn't come for a long time? Absolutely, because who is qualifying it as long time, right? Because it's already here. It's not somewhere available in the future. So, how to rest without expectation? Good question. You rest without expectation by first being courageous to see, right? On being curious to see what I am is, what is available to me here right now. Am I even curious? Am I even interested in this stuff? And even maybe even pose the question, if the desire doesn't come, right? Can I still explore this? Maybe even go there, Annie. Go towards that question. Because the point is, you're resting without expectation when you have the curiosity of a child. And that requires, you can't force that, and that's why you can't force this teaching onto someone else either, right? Because this is not like, oh, listen to the subliminal like 10,000 times and then you'll get your desire. So Um, okay. Yes. Do someone else do the right actions automatically arise? For example, I'm resting and I am an awareness, and then the right action just automatically arises. Whatever action comes up from the states of awareness, they are quote unquote right. Meaning, I don't even like using right and wrong. They're useful. You see, they contribute to the bigger picture that our mind cannot say. Nobody can say, "Oh, you are. Why did you call this person? Like that doesn't even make sense in your desire scheme. That's so insignificant." You have no idea. The impulse comes, and you're thinking like, "Oh, I just feel like calling this person." You're not thinking, "I'm calling this person because I think they will give me an opportunity to get me my job." It's just your actions are always happening. Notice, in fact, I invite you to notice in the past, before a important desire has come up, notice how your actions um, sort of arose, right? And how that seeming manifestation came about. And it can seem very random. It can seem so random. It can even be like, oh, I don't even know if I did anything other than just, I showered and then I stepped out of my shower and then I saw this message from my friend. And she said, there's this job opening here. So you see, um, and okay, if you surrender yourself to awareness, then separate self feels threatened. It says, if you don't anticipate and plan, then you will suffer as you did before. If that's happening, why don't you allow that threat, that fear to be present here for a few moments? Why don't you allow that threat to be present here? Right. Don't try to fight it just yet. And before you can even go towards that threat, notice if that threat has an accompanying sensation in your body. Maybe it's in your throat or chest or your belly, right? Notice it and bring your attention to simply the sensation of that. And then go get curious about it. What do I know of the sensation without referring to any labels or memory? Without calling it a threat, can I really see the sensation? And I'm not saying the sensation is going to like magically disappear in 1 second. But what it happens is you're no longer judging the sensation. You're seeing that sensation is also awareness. It's also nothing but awareness. And in that, it's gradually dissolves. Even if it begins to feel slightly intense in the at first, it starts loosening up. Right. So yeah, hope that helps. Would I talk about chronic illness, how it relates to overall and physical symptoms? And yeah, one chronic seeming illness, I can also create a video on this, but to quickly kind of share, and I'll take like maybe two more questions. Is and by the way, before I answer this question, if you have any other questions here, like I will see the themes and I'll try to make videos on them specifically and send them to you in, to all of you in the email. And that way it can be useful to everyone as well. So chronic illness, a while ago I had, actually just 6, 7 years ago, I had randomly out of the blue, like autoimmune disorder, like it's called lichen planus. And even the dermatologist, older dermatologist kind of laughed. And she's like, it's unfortunate that it's there, but she almost laughed and said, it's just always going to be there. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, what is she talking about? And by the way, I'm also a physician, but I wasn't trying to disrespect her, but I heard that and I was like, okay, like, thank you for letting me know what this is, right? And anyway, she gave some steroid cream or something, and sure, like I was still in a state of like, okay, cool, like everything's worked out because it's resting and I am. And even tried the steroid cream like once or twice, but I was like, this is too artificial for me. By the way, there's nothing wrong in actually using a medicine or something. It's still arising an awareness. It's made of awareness. So after that, I realized, wait a second, my body is like a GPS system. It is showing me what identities or where I've mistaken myself to be. Like, am I mistaking myself to be a collection of thoughts or a story here? And it kind of pointed me to an underlying kind of stress, right? And which I wasn't even aware of. And I was like, huh, okay, cool. And then, and I kind of turned towards awareness using one of the guided pause questions. And then I noticed that, oh, in this awareness, as I am noticing this awareness, I don't see anything wrong with this. I don't see anything missing here in my experience. I don't see this as a chronic illness. Yeah, sure. It's just some patch, something is appearing on my hand. And mind you, this uh, lichen planus autoimmune is very itchy. Like when it was there, like if you just touch it, like I wanted someone to just tie me up. Okay, like super, super itchy and like really kind of disgusting. Right. So I was seeing that and like experiencing that, and then I noticed like, okay, cool. It's not a big deal. It doesn't mean more than what it's there. Like, right? It's just an appearance happening in awareness. Someone said it reminds me of eczema, and I used to have that as a child, very small child, no more. Very like, so, and I started seeing this lichen planus as just, it's just something appearing in awareness. And gradually, as I was seeing that, it just kind of just dissolved, it faded over time. I haven't had any episode in over 2 years, not even a little bit, not even a little. So I hope that helps in um, some way. Um, with someone, someone else asked, with someone with a lot of trauma that's deeply ingrained, do you feel like it's enough to just come to I am? Seems too easy to bypass trauma. Great question. Awareness or I am is not about bypassing trauma. Okay. Please, please, if you want, right? Because I'm another profession that I am is also a therapist. And when I gave you a list of all the things the separate self does to heal itself and fix itself, I said even like shadow work or in healing inner child, all of them can serve as a stepping stone. Nothing is bad or weird or less than in awareness. Okay, so if you need that to support yourself, like to kind of stabilize, to feel stable, you can use those and still recognize who you truly are, right? You can still recognize who you truly are as awareness, right? So even as you and even as I'm saying that, while resting as who you truly are, as I am, it is not a bypassing of trauma. It is still healing. It allows the old stories to fade. It nourishes you from the inside out. It welcomes the stories. So you're not seen as someone who has trauma, or you're not seen as, oh, you can only access I am if you're fully healed and you've done the work already. No, any person on this planet, all 8 billion of people, can see who you truly are. Okay. Um, So someone said timeless versus timeless course versus my more than enough course. Thank you. So my timeless, does timeless include money, freedom, and as an area of exploration and all encompassing. So timeless, you can apply it for seriously, any desire. It's not at all like, and I'm going to put the link again here. It's not about being stuck to one desire. It essentially helps you see um, what it is that you're lacking or mistaking yourself to be, because we're always caught up in time. Our primary urgency is not really will the desire come or not. It's almost like, but will the desire come or not in this period of time, in my lifetime, or is it going to not show up? Um, and so yeah, so timeless is for that, and more than enough is specifically for money or uh, for wealth, right? And yeah, let's see, where else? What else? The question here. Um, there's so many videos. Sorry, so many comments. I'm saying. Um, you're saying thank you so much for the answers. You're loving the answers. Um, I'm so seriously so grateful for you guys all being here. Right. Yeah. Even though I guess people are just sharing their comments, even though I'm resting and I am. I'm fully aware that the old identity is writing a story, labeling the circumstances in order to pull me back in. Yeah, that's great awareness, right? Um, and that's okay if it's doing that. Be- uh it's even you noticing even your old identity trying to write a story and you're noticing that, just realize how you are the one who's not caught up in it in that moment that you're noticing, right? And oh, someone said so much love, Anila, you're glowing. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you've been glowing. You can see that you're aware of your divinity. That I'm just your mirror reflecting your brilliance back to you. Um, yeah. The offers will be put in an email as well. The offer is if you buy the timeless course, um, you will get 2 audio coaching exchanges free with for the price of the same timeless course. And I will send that in an email as well. And that offer is valid till Monday before February 9, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's the link again if you want, but I'll be emailing as well. And no, the other course does not include the bonus. This is just for the timeless course. But email me anyway. Um, and yes, thank you for the ideas. What about the phrase, it's okay? Doesn't it put you straight back to resting in awareness? Um, it, sure, it can. It can serve as a pointer. For some people, it's okay can just serve as, oh, I just have to accept that this is the character's way of life. For you specifically, it can be like a phrase to see that, wait a second, it's okay. I can see that I am. And everything is being contained in this I am, in this awareness. There's nothing here to resist. So, and I think, um, yeah, thank you so much. Someone said, Chris said, your generosity knows no bounds. This is like the 3rd free session. Thank you so much. Okay, someone said, Anila, my specific person is ghosting me. What should I do now? Well, notice the resistance that's surfacing, right? And I invite you to try my, like I said, use the map, like pause, rest, and experience. But don't turn towards I am or any of these guided pauses as a way to fix something. Seriously, like if you do it with the agenda of like, I need this to come, and you don't see it, it's because you're not truly resting as awareness. Um, it's okay is not, by the way, I have to redefine an affirmation, which I always say an affirmation is simply a declaration of truth. Like I am, right? I am in itself is an inherent affirmation. We're not repeating the words, it's okay. Someone said they wanted to use. Uh, they're almost like a recognition that, yeah, it's okay. Not like, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. We're not doing that here. We're not repeating it. But um, I'm so glad someone else said, okay, this is the last question, guys, and then we will wrap up. Okay. If I want to become a nurse, can I do that successfully without manifesting illness in my own life? I have a history of health anxiety. Yeah, of course. Of course you can. So to give you some context, I am a physician, as I said, and I was actually my best. I've never felt sick, maybe probably once in my entire med school. Even when my friends had like dengue fever in India and like it spread like wildfire. wildfire. I never felt sick with that. Um, because inherently I know that, and I am like, there's no problems there. There's nothing, there's no illness there. And why would I catch some sickness? And on the same note, by the way, I obsessively watch a lot of, I love forensic science. I love like looking at seemingly real life cases and documentaries. Um, so like I watched like the investigation of Lucy Letby last night. I mean, just what I'm saying is you can follow these passions without manifesting the same thing in your life because it is, you're just noticing it as a movie. You're not making it your own. You see, you're not making it to mean that it is you and yours and oh, this will happen to me. Because I read a lot of gruesome stories. But I've always felt safe everywhere I've traveled. Everywhere I go, even in the streets of New York, when people are like, be careful, be careful. I feel this super safe, even in the Bronx. I feel really safe. Oh, someone said, I am qualified. Gemma said, I'm qualified in criminology and forensics. Was fascinating. Yes. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. Yes, we live in a safe and giving world. Um, and I loved that you're here. Thank you for taking the time. Seriously. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. Bye.